Trigger warning for grooming, defending grooming, and also pedophilia. Hey y'all, how y'all doing? So I wasn't going to make the video about Doodletones, but then I noticed she had covered my video in her video about miscommunications, somewhere between late 2023 to early 2024. So I watched the video, and oh my god, it is a ride. So here's some major context for those who didn't know about why this all happened. I made a video back in December of 2023 where I blamed the slideshow commentary community for Lyle's and Peach's actions, which wasn't their fault, but it was more of Peach's fault and how he treated the situation with a known individual by the name of Miles. This situation had started with a victim by the name of Jelly. There was a major tweet about the individual with a whole document about the 50 victims of Miles. Was the tweet mentioned. I'm going to bed. My eyes and wrists are killing me. In the meantime, if you want to read the currently completed parts of the doc, here's the link. No, I think that it is fine. I think coming out with an entire document about the victims' testimonies and their stories about an individual who has a history of not being a good person is fine, and I think that I trust that. What isn't fine is the next part of this story. So basically a YouTuber by the name of Holy Speeches was a art commentator who was in the same cahoots and circles with Lyle Convoy at the time. Peaches was the peacekeeper of the art commentary community, similar to how Doodletones was the peacekeeper of the slideshow commentary community. Now, Hopeless Peaches decided to basically go to a minor circle and try to find Miles, which what we know of now is not surprising, since he was in the FCK service and basically bullied a disabled person, aka Rosa Ramsey. But I'm not going to go too much in detail about that, because that would be a lot. Hey guys, me editing here. You might be wondering why I'm using he, him pronouns for Hopeless Peaches. It's because Hopeless Peaches goes by he, they. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that. Anyway, back to the video. So here's a screenshot of that. Hopeless Peaches is really hopeless, because why do you have a 38-year-old man asking for the in-real-life information of teenagers? Hey, Hopeless Peaches here. 24 years old. Any pronouns are fine. I wanted to come and have some words about Miles. I know it's hard a topic, but I'd like to have a conversation with anyone involved. I've worked on a few predation cases and want to help here with understanding, etc. I'm Lyle, 38, he, him. I like animation, but I really need to speak to Miles. Miles isn't here anymore. I see. Do you have any of their in-real-life info? Now, this behavior of Lyle is a little bit questionable, but again, Lyle has apologized for these actions in a video, so I'm not going to give him too much. Hopeless Peaches is still a horrid individual, so he doesn't get an excuse. Anyway, then I make my video about this situation, and to be frank, I'm not happy with how I treated the situation because I did blame an entire community for something that shouldn't have been their fault. And to add more to the fire, I kind of did lash out at this situation because I didn't know what to do, and then that caused ex-SCC members Sue Livy and also Sparrow, but they did apologize, don't worry, to yell at me at 8 in the morning. Also when I was at school, and then I left all SCC-related servers at 17 years old because of that video. And now we are here. I am not happy with how this video got into Doodle's video about miscommunications, because homegirl... Anyway, let's just get into it, I guess.
Accusing them of the same shit the Fox Mafia had prior?
Hi, this is going to be a mess to talk about. I'm a part of a community that has recently discovered Hopeless Peaches and Leo Convoy through Neko Coda, a situation that our community has. Long one.
Actually, on that note, I think I'd like to touch on this video because while this particular example is rather young, Ratsu is a different situation entirely, and it can be one that can kind of tie back into a problem the SCC as a whole will sometimes face from time to time. And it's frankly one that's downright embarrassing for us to face given the very nature of this hobby we've taken up. Okay, so you know how what we, even as slideshow commentators, do is critique and debate videos that we disagree with or find problems in? You know how we'll sometimes get on people's cases for not researching things before they speak on it? Yeah, like, do your research was like a whole meme in the SEC in 2016, and I get that some of y'all might not remember that since a lot of y'all are new faces that post-date the alt-CC era, but even without that, we still tell people to do even a modicum of research when something is this easily debunkable. So, why is it that sometimes y'all won't even do a lick of research yourselves? Or will dive into a situation, jump to a conclusion at the first sign of something being up, and point fingers without proper information given? Like, doesn't that go against the whole point of commentary? Like, for instance, and again, this is a minor one, Ratsu here says that the SEC was introduced to Lyo Convoy from Beko Koda. But not only was Koda not the first SEC member Lyo had to deal with, since he was one of the two who initially drove V Omega out of this community, but a lot of us, when dealing with Sherman doxing us in Premier Chats, wound up getting into contact with him through that. Ratsu could have known this if she just asked, but she didn't. She just came in here first 17 seconds and fed what is technically misinformation to her audience, and mind you, this is of the tame stuff.
Well, yes, you're not wrong. However, I just want to point out something that I've noticed at this point. I just want to point out. I am a logger for the Cloud Palace, or the defunct Cloud Palace. It's a ride to say the least. It's been, well, not the best experience, but it's something.
What I actually mean, it is like levels of FCK bad. That's what we're talking about.
Well, just recently going for the Cloud Palace, I noticed this was just there about Lyo Conflict when the first mention of Lyo is mentioned. And I was just looking through it and noticed this little funny thing when y'all were talking about Sherman.
Maybe if I, myself, the doctor will go away. Is Sherman still going? Think so. Bleh. Him and were spamming Libby's premiere. Of course, Christ. The funny thing is the guy who I kicked out is cool with at least Libby and reached out to her. Would it kill this child to actually do something productive with their life? So there is literally no reason to this other than himself. I don't know how these people can be like that. I also apologize publicly. I refuse to go to him privately on any account though, cause he's involved with Sherman. I'm going to fucking crack skulls. Wish Lyo would actually help us, like he said he would. Like, dude, said he was going to, it's been a half a fucking year. Like, bleh.
Like, yes, Queen, give us nothing! Like, homegirl, you literally poisoned the well with the nonsense you created, and when y'all were getting that help, you weren't happy. If you know what I mean. And so on. I want to be clear, I love the slideshow community. However, dismissing actual victims of grooming and downplaying their stories is not okay. I want to be very clear with that.
Are you trying to insinuate the SEC doesn't? Like, really? The 200 plus page Ray Kohai documents, the V Omega exposés, the shit that just happened in Nexus involving Habit, RCV, and Morgan, and Blaze? Another situation you made a video about, mind you? Are you really trying to insinuate the SEC doesn't take grooming allegations seriously? For fuck's sakes, the SEC was willing to completely ostracize Horus Tome for that very thing, and the allegations against them were dubious at best.
Let's cover this point bit by bit. Because this whole point is actually crazy, okay? Are you stating that the community doesn't care about grooming? Yes. Yes. That has been a problem for the majority of the community. The community still has issues with grooming, especially when we have victims coming about their experiences. When victims come out, when they're minors, or when they realize they were groomed, we have grown-ass people defending this deplorable actions, behavior. An example of this is when Juniru came out about the Omega. People were defending this behavior, people like Vigustio, Degenerate, Greenstar, etc. Those people defended that behavior because it was normal for them to do so. And it's been a problem with the Clubhouse in Pacific. There was so much victim blaming, harboring predators, and so many problems of how Clubhouse was run. And somehow, what makes this point even worse is the fact that you say the horse's allegations were dubious. At best, when you harbored that predator from a video 4 years ago. And honey, it was only dubious to you because you were his friend. The video in question is Can We Please Talk About George Raccoon, where she defends Horace's actions and used that behavior to victim blame Leo, one of Horace's victims. And when Saf tried to talk about how this wasn't okay, people were dogging on her during the conversation, including, but not limited to, Sue Livy, a child at the time, Cosmo Stardust, or Eternity, Musha on 2 separate accounts, Avi Holtman and Lorenzo. I won't cover that video because that video is another can of worms, and also that video has been covered to death. But TLDR, Doodle defends Horace and allows Horace to come back to the community because she didn't believe a victim. And also, one of the reasons as to why was because Ray Kohai believed that Horace was a predator for some reason. That was an actual reason. Like, I guess a broken clock is right once in a while. And about V Omega, remember when the community found out about Vajosio was still friends with V Omega, a known child groomer? Yeah, Susie knew about it and did nothing about it. Until Cloak and Dagger. And the whole Cloud Palace might have known about it and did nothing. Well, except for some people. We really don't know. We have so much shit. So here's what we found about that.
I am so glad I didn't meet Jar or come in contact with him. If I ever crossed him, he would absolutely weaponize the fact that I'm still friends with V and use that to paint a target on me. Man, I'd fucking throw hands. Like, look, I don't like V, and I can be a bitch. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna be such a bitch as to dictate who my friends can and can't be friends with. That's crossing a line in my book.
This confirms that Jace knew about
Vega being friends with V Omega
and did nothing. Nothing! Also, this confirms that Susie also knew because she owned the Cloud Palace. Like, you moderated that. And you still didn't think about this message?
Me at Autumn. Didn't she block you because she found out you were still friends with V? Personally, I would have just swallowed. Something waste of sperm.
Another instance of where another horrid individual, Ollie Haltman, knew Vajosio was still friends with V Omega and did nothing. Also, Tippy knew, but like the public already knew about that. Also, checked the reactions to that message where Avi calls Altman, one of Ray's victims, a waste of sperm, and he reacted to it with a clapping emoji. So she would have also known that Vajosio was still friends with V Omega. So it gets really weird. It really does. It just gets worse every time. Like, damn, girl. All of you allowed this. Except for the minors. There were some minors or people who were freshly 18 who knew about Vajosio being in contact with V Omega and did nothing because they were children. So they get excuses. And here's evidence of Susie found out about V Omega being a groomer.
Song idea, a parody of Everything is Awesome about modern day internet culture called Everyone is Cancelled. I refrained, bad timing, and all.
Which, by the way, that's kind of a weird statement to be saying when an individual is being outed as a terrible being, aka a child groomer. Especially when there is a lot of evidence of the groomer being predatory and your first statement is, ha ha! Everyone is getting cancelled! Homegirl, you're weird. You're a weird person. Like, you deserve no respect for that. Because how are you going to play the leader of the community and then do this? Explain? Oh, by the way, when someone wanted to still be in contact with V Omega, Susie Doodletones responded with the following about a George Raccoon, aka Horace Tome, and said it was fine to be friends with the groomer and confirmed that George was a predator like the Omega.
Oh yeah, I would never say anyone cannot be my friends with those I don't like or those I see problematic. I mean, fuck, I still talk to George Raccoon on occasion. I'd be a hypocrite if I say you couldn't chill with V.
Meaning, Doodle knew and was still friends with Horace and did nothing for 2 years and allowed that predator to be in these circles and did nothing. So no, Susie, you should not be speaking about someone's allegations being dubious when that's what they were doing. You admitted it that George's allegations were true and then decided it was okay to allow him back into the community where people have been groomed to think that this type of behavior was okay. Which makes what Susie Doodletones did 100 times worse. Oh, and about that Ray Kohai document, why did no one tell me the reason why y'all hated Ray Kohai was because of shit talking, rather than the abuse that she did? So I don't want to hear anything. And when y'all thought Autumn and Saf were being abused, you did nothing!
Ray and I bonded for the first time over talking about how fucked up she was. What the actual fuck did I just read tonight? Gwen cheated on Autumn, lied to her, threatened her with... But it's okay, she doesn't like commentaries. Like, unless she has changed a sense of heart or something, my god, that's fucked.
We have Avi in contact with Ray Kohai talking about how fucked up Saf was and making her look like a cheater when none of that shit happened. It was a lie that was made to groom Autumn and Saf. And y'all did nothing. Y'all sat there, treated it as gossip, and never went to the victims who were actually wanted to talk because they were being groomed by Ray and Vivian. And to add more to the fire, neither Saf nor Autumn got contacted about being in contact with Ray Kohai, nor did anyone try to help them get out of the abusive relationship Saf and Autumn were in with Ray Kohai, which makes everyone look hella worse when reading these screenshots. So I'm not covering the rest of the video as my emotions would get way too out of hand, and I want to talk about more of what she has done and how she has hurt and manipulated so many people. I know your feelings are hurt. Mine are too, since many of the community believed her, and the fact that no one cared and made her the leader of the community, which I'm glad we got a new generation of that is taking over the SEC, because the old generation of SEC was actually keeping a noticeable pattern. And we still have this problem, but it's not big of an issue now. And this problem I had noticed when I was in the SEC during 2018 and 2023. That problem that Susie mentioned was miscommunication. See, people had yes groups, or people who would say yes to anything. And also people had issues like not talking to at all to the other side, which is why I was seen as a threat. Because when I was trying to come back to the community I loved, there wasn't a thing with communication. Rather, I was not communicated to. Because now I have learned it was because I was too annoying and I talked way too much. And that's why no one ever wanted to talk to me. That's why Sue Livy, Space Guru, Slayer, and Tippy never talked, because I was that annoying. Somehow. And yet, I didn't do jack shit. And the more I think about how the Cloud Palace was run, Cloud Palace was even worse at managing and moderating than the Temporal Times commentaries. And I was a part of TTC, because most of the people in TTC weren't constantly shit talking about other people and were like living their lives. Cloud Palace had that issue. They had more issues because of how there wasn't even a moderator until like the last year of Cloud Palace. And some much of this could have been managed better if there were moderators in place, people in charge. Instead, Doodle ran the place and it became a toxic cesspool filled with minors that were groomed and made to think that this behavior was okay at the time. Susie, I'm glad you're gone now. Because if I had more stuff about you, heard more stuff about you, I would go insane, knowing that I used to stand you. And now I'm a bit doubtful because the way you used your actions to make a stance and call me wrong when I am glad I was right. Susie had caused a lot more harm because of the things she has done to many people in the community. And I'm glad we are getting rid of people like Susie because we're trying to make it a lot better than what it is right now. Susie, I believe you should stay gone for a while. Thank you for me rambling on, and that is it. Goodbye.
Hi, me editing here. Ah. So originally this was going to be the end, and then I found so much worse shit in the Cloud Palace recently. You might be wondering, what did you find? We'll get to that. So I recently got moderator permission and went through the old chats that had been standing there abandoned. So remember when I said the Cloud Palace had issues with victim blaming and not communicating to the other side? Come to find out that it was 10 times worse. There are some notable instances I had found while I was relooking for the Cloud Palace that I am disgusted by how Susie was never confronted about any of this and was just allowed to have this in her server. So, I'm going to show what I mean. In this screenshot, Fee shares a site that had DBZ shorta porn. This was with a minor, by the way. There is also many weird instances that we also found. We have an example of Susie letting children, Bennett and Buggy, say the word come. Bennett was 17 and Buggy was 13 to 14. We also have adults like Jace just allowing this behavior, which is not even surprising, knowing this shit was just allowed and no one did anything. We also have this, Susie sharing literal inflation porn to 15-year-old lunatic and 17-year-old Joni. I wish I was joking. Oh, and also this shit where they put my testimony about the Omega in the found material. I'm sorry, what? I would also like to point out, Sue Livy did have communication with me, while Slayer never contacted me. I tried getting his contact, but he never wanted to talk to me, so this just makes this so much worse because how? Hi! Me editing again! Yay! So Luxor DM'd me about those messages that I went through, and I asked Luxor if Slayer could contact me and give me an apology for what he did. It was a short message, not like it was awful or anything, but I'm glad that you actually wanted to apologize to me in DMs rather than not apologize to me at all. So I accept it. I know I was a child, and seeing him recognize what he did was wrong made me feel a lot better of what happened, so I'm not going to blame him, more on the people that allowed this behavior to thrive. Anyway, also, just another instance where someone made a sexual joke about Akumu coming again. This was just fine and dandy to them, apparently. And then we have a child, supposedly Asher, one of the people in the Cloud Palace, calling themselves Lolly, and then sharing literal porn. It just gets worse and worse as I go through these. Something to point out is that before the NSFW plus chats were even heavily gated, minors gotten access to these chats. The more I think about how Cloud Palace just gets worse, it gets worse on a scale of degeneracy. The Cloud Palace is gone, but even when it's gone, there were so many signs that were just there. Especially with how porn was just spammed in general, and yet they allowed literal children in these circles. I'm disgusted. The way they bullied children like me and Edwin makes me want to cry for those who had interactions like this. I think with how much Susie was a leader at one point, with the amount of shit that Susie Ann got away with, is also disgusting. And the way I find more and more shit about this, I'm not happy. So with that, absolutely fuck you, Doodle. Bye. Stay gone. I know you won't stay gone because I know you are in the Archipelago server with minors, but I mean it. Stay gone. Goodbye.